This is Rednal Karting in Oswestry, and I've never been here before. I've got 15 minutes to get up to speed and learn the track before I join a race. But luckily, I've brought a little gadget with me that might just help. That thing on my steering wheel is my phone, and it's connected to a Dragy PRO GPS unit. But can it actually make me faster? Let's find out.
Well, here we are at Rednal. Been excited to try this track for a long time.
I actually thought this was going to be a dry session. The weather forecast was really favourable, but clearly the racing gods had other ideas.
Wow.
As if this wasn't going to be hard enough already. The karts were slipping so much.
It's greasy.
Today I've been joined by my brother Joel, and we're out on track at the moment with a dad and his kids. All of us are weaving around to try and find any semblance of grip out here, but I do have a bit of a sneaky advantage. Because once I complete a lap, that screen on my phone is going to change and give me a live delta readout, so I can really fine-tune my driving. And honestly, you're not going to believe the difference that makes. And speaking of things that you've got to look forward to, here's a list of things that I'm going to tick off in this video. At the moment though, we just need to try and survive a lap, which is going to be easier said than done.
There you go.
As I cross the start-finish line for the first time, getting perilously close to being involved in a bit of an accident, my screen changes. Dragy has recognised that I've crossed the start-finish line, so it's started to time my lap. And at the end of this lap, it'll give me something even better.
Wow, okay. We are slippery out here. Really cool.
Somehow I have survived another lap round the track, and I'm about to set a benchmark lap time. Dragy will flash my lap time up on the screen, and then it will switch to Delta mode.
Great, so I've got a Delta now. Get in, Dragy. Teach me how to be quick.
Unfortunately, Dragy can give you the information, but it can't give you the talent. And while I was going for the mad outside wet lines, Joel was taking the more traditional ones. I think they were working better.
Joel's line is better there.
Clearly very aware of the slightly babbling, crazed lunatic behind him, Joel decided to do the sensible thing and pull over to the side and wave me through. And this gave me a clear track for the first time since we headed out. So let me take you for a lap of Rednal Karting. And keep an eye on that delta readout on my steering wheel to watch my confidence grow as we go round the lap. First off, we've got this right-hander, which I think in the dry would just be completely flat. It's definitely not in the wet. I'm going around the outside. Then we head down into this sort of open right-hand hairpin. It's not the tightest in the world, but it's a challenge in these conditions. Diagonal over to the outside, and then we've got this kind of acute left-hander, which is tighter than it looks at first glance. I've navigated that reasonably well. At the end of this little straight, we've got a deceptively tricky chicane. The left hand is quite open, it tempts you to throw the kart in really hard, but then it tightens as you turn to the right. Yeah, the infield section is where things get technical. You've got this really long looping right-hander, which then flicks left before doubling back on itself into another right-hander and another left-hander. I'm taking these pretty pedestrian right now, but you just wait until my confidence comes up later in this video. Then we've got another sort of 90-degree right-hander into a 90-degree left-hander, which rounds out the lap as you head onto the start-finish straight. Look at that delta readout.
5 seconds quicker. Wow, this track is crazy.
I'm clearly not able to round numbers up properly because that was 6 seconds, not 5 seconds quicker. But that's a massive improvement, and now I'm going to start trying to modify my lines a little bit, take different lines through the corners, and see if I can get even faster. Yeah, if you've never driven on a wet track before, the inside of the corner where you'd usually go in the dry becomes super slippy in the wet. But still, it's good to experiment with your lines and see where the grip is. This poor kid on the right found out that there was no grip where he was. Someone at the track had mentioned to me that the inside lines actually had more grip in the wet conditions, so I decided to give that a go on the next lap. Yeah, there was just no grip on the inside. I was skating across it like it was ice, so I think I'll be giving the apexes of these corners a bit of a miss from now on. Although on the next lap I almost took that a bit too literally. On my next lap I was up on my delta, but then I got blocked by this guy in the chicane. He's taken it a little bit easy, and to be honest, I don't blame him. The conditions out here are tough. And coming through the infield section to finish off the lap, I had a mild crash with his brother. Twice. Aware that we've not got that much time left in this session before we start to race, I wanted to just get a good lap in. A big thing for me that I've been picking up on is smooth means smooth on the brakes, but it also means smooth on the accelerator. My temptation is to just mash my right foot to the floor and sort of control the slide, but actually you've got to ease it on, and you can see real improvements. And as I cross the line to go 1.2 seconds quicker, again I'm heading on to what would be the final lap of this session. So let's just ride on board, shall we? And then we'll hop into qualifying and the race, where many things are going to happen. What I will do actually is at the end of this video, I'll put a side by side with this, my fastest lap of this session, and then my fastest lap of the race, so you can see how I've improved over the time I've spent driving this track. Coming through turn 3, I've made an awful mistake just hitting that accelerator a bit too hard, which has killed so much of my speed. Yeah, you just wait. In the race, that chicane gets mad. Heading into the infield section, I'm getting much braver with staying on the throttle a little bit later into this long right-hander, which has actually put me back up on my delta, so I've gained loads of time through there. And the time keeps tumbling as I start hunting on the outside of the track for these little dry patches which can help me flick the car into the corners. I think this part of the track started to dry in the race. Either that or I just got way more confident, but anyway. This little infield section is really tricky because the line you choose on one corner can affect the following corner and even the one after that. As we headed back into the pits, I'd shaved 9 seconds off my first lap time. Not too bad. Having a delta on your wheel is super helpful because you get immediate feedback as to what you're doing and whether it's right or wrong. Well, practice is done. Let's go qualify for this race and see if I can go any quicker.
Let's see what we can do. Already this feels way friendlier.
What on earth am I on about, you might be asking? Well, I've made a couple of changes since that practice session. I'm in a different car, and I've also moved my seat a little bit further forwards to try and get a little bit more bite on the front end of the car. We're also out on track with the group we're going to be doing the race with. There's 6 drivers in that group, and I'm starting to think that they might not all be super competitive. But hey, maybe they're just getting a feel for the track conditions, which are now a tiny bit drier maybe, but still treacherous. That's Joel up ahead in the white helmet, and he's about to put in a storming performance in this qualifying session, but right now he's still finding the conditions tricky as well. It's probably worth me mentioning that the Dragy is only referencing laps from the current session, so it's only referencing my out lap at the moment. I'm not 2.2 seconds quicker than I was in practice.
Oh wow, okay, we got grip. I think moving forwards is giving me a little bit of a don't know, I feel like I can control the sliding a little better now as well.
And I think that combined with the track drying has made a big difference, because as I cross the start finish on my first lap in qualifying, I go 1.3 seconds quicker than my fastest lap in practice, and we are gaining so much time now. Look at that delta. I was compromised through the second corner as well, so as we head into this corner, look at the time gains. That is mental. 2 seconds through 2 corners, and there's way more time still to find. I pushed like crazy through the chicane on this lap, but on the exit I got a bit of a snap of oversteer which just scrubbed off my momentum. And towards the end of the lap in the infield section, unfortunately I just caught one of the slower drivers at one of the worst times imaginable, scrubbing off about a second on my delta. But hey, we're still going to cross the start finish line with over a second gained on that lap. On the next lap I was very nearly matching my time, and I was about to come through this sector where I'd had to back off so much, but then there was a yellow flag. The chain on Joel's cart had snapped and he was out. His cart was stuck on the side of the road and he was in the pits having to try and get into a new cart, which was an absolute nightmare for him in qualifying, because we've only got, well, less than half of the session left and he's now going to have a cold cart. Just bear that in mind, yeah, for later. Meanwhile, I get my braking all wrong and headbutt the wall.
Eat a barrier!
Unfortunately, at the end of the lap, the yellow flags are still there and Joel's cart is being wheeled through a gap in the wall, so I'm not able to improve. The next lap, I catch traffic in some really awkward places, having to properly back out, but I do still manage to improve by a tenth and a bit.
Nearly lost it, that was way too much speed.
Big old mistake into turn 1, but I'm still up on my delta into turn 2 and managed to gain loads of speed on the exit. Just trying to make the most of the clear track I've now got ahead of me. As I turn left into turn 3, I notice that the checkered flag is waving on the right hand side. You can just see the guy waving it there. That means the session's over.
This is gonna count then.
Getting this chicane right is going to be vital for a good lap time. I managed to gain a couple of tenths in the middle of the corner and another one on the exit. Then it's all just about being brave in the infield section, keeping things nice and tidy. I know that there's a chunk of time in this last corner where I've been having to back out. There it is, we're up to 2 seconds gained, and then I get my head down and power towards the line to set a 109.8.
109! Get in!
A lap time which would set me comfortably on pole... Wait a second. Joel had only gone and set an even better lap earlier in the session. What a beast! That's his first pole position. Smashed it, Joel, well done. Now let's race. Unfortunately for Joel, I get the better launch off the line. I don't know whether my grid patch was slightly drier than his or what, but as we head into turn 1, I've got the lead, and I just run the car all the way around the outside and try and keep things nice, cool and calm. The last thing I want to do right now is just outbrake myself and smack myself into a wall. And as we head round the right-hander of turn 2, you can see I've already got a bit of a gap to most of the field. And as we head through the long right-hander before the infield section, if you look to the right of the screen right about now, you can just see Joel in the white helmet. We've got a really decent gap over him as well. I'll be honest, I'm feeling pretty confident in a win here. Maybe a little bit too confident.
Right, how much time can we win this race? Can we shave off? Oh god. Joel is there.
Yeah, he is still hunting me. Unfortunately, we worked out later on what had actually happened here. Because Joel had got a new car at the very end of qualifying, it was still pretty cold by the time we started this race, so unfortunately he just hasn't got the tyre temperature that the rest of us have got, and so he's sliding around all over the place and losing tons of time. Which is a shame, because I was really looking forward to battling him, especially as he was really quick in qualifying. But you do need to be careful what you wish for, because later on in this race I do end up battling him, and well, you have to wait and see what happens there. Anyway, we're about to set our first representative lap of the race, and I crossed the start-finish line to set a 109.98, only a tenth slower than I managed in qualifying. And even though it's just the start of lap 3, I'm about to lap my first back marker. And if you look over to the right-hand side, just by that wooden hut, you can see Joel's white helmet moving along the barrier line. We've got a decent gap over him as well. Things are looking good. And at the end of lap 3, I set a new personal best around this track before backing right off into turn 1 because someone's run wide and put their car almost under the barrier there. Fortunately, they're okay. My next fastest lap attempt was scuppered a little bit by this guy who spun out in the infield section, so I had to kind of back off and avoid him. And then on the very next lap, I started to get a little bit braver with the curbs in the infield section. You can see me taking chunks of time out of my previous best lap. Unfortunately though, in this penultimate right-hander, I just run a little bit wide, get on the greasy side of the track, and that loses me a couple of tenths, but it's still a decent lap as we head down the start-finish straight to cross the start line and set a 107.8. Over the next few laps, I had fun weaving my way through some of the other racers out on track and trying not to cause any accidents or get involved in any, which is a bit harder than it sounds. We had a fun little drag race with this guy down into the chicane, but then I knew he'd back out, so I just kept my foot planted and raced through. I then witnessed a minor road traffic accident on the exit of this corner, before someone else very kindly demonstrated why the inside line into turn 1 isn't optimal. Then I messed up my braking into this left-hander and accidentally found loads of time. Totally intentional, I promise. I managed to carry that gain all the way through the lap, being really brave in the infield section and gaining nearly 2.5 seconds.
Whoa, come on! A good lap.
And then I immediately almost binned it.
Oh.
Then I sent it too hard into the chicane and nearly spun.
Almost all the way around.
I thought this overtake was done and dusted, so cue my surprise when I turn into this long right-hander and find myself being dive-bombed. I then go for a breathe in. I then try and figure out how to set up a switchback on this person in the infield section, but then they kind of just... Speaking of the infield section, I think it's starting to click.
Sounded super early to these. Like, a bit too early.
This next lap though is a good one. We're 2 tenths up as we head into turn 2. Make that 4 tenths, although I do lose a little bit of time on the exit here. I think due to a bit of wheel spin, maybe putting a wheel on the curb. Flick the cart really aggressively into this left-hander, inducing understeer, then letting the cart grip up and ride through it. Means we're back up to nearly half a second gained as we head towards the chicane. Flick the cart through the left and right. We've sort of maintained speed there, maybe gained a tiny bit on the exit.
Better exit that time.
And now we're into the long right-hander before the infield section. I go really deep this time, which actually allows me to carry great speed. And now we're clipping all the curbs, turning in really early to really fire the cart over these infield curbs here. You can see how much I'm bouncing. Then I'm staying really tight to the inside, clipping this curb and this curb.
Wow, nailed that, come on.
Before absolutely gunning it to the start-finish. Nice, but I was about to go even quicker. First though, I had to have this minor crash. Now look, I know we all make jokes about people going slower on track or at first timers or whatever, but we were all first timers once, and I just wanted to check on him, make sure he was all good, make sure I hadn't, made him jump or anything like that. He was, and so I carried on. And the very next lap, I think I overcompensated a little bit and pushed too hard through that chicane, running really wide on the exit and actually putting 2 wheels on the grass. Until finally we arrive at lap 23, which was my fastest lap of the day. And yet, annoyingly, far from perfect. We're carrying decent speed as we head down the start-finish straight. I run the cart right round the outside of turn 1, 2 tenths up on the exit, not bad. There's a back marker up ahead now who slides wide and hits the wall, so I have to cut inwards, sacrificing all my momentum around that corner. Look at the delta dropping. It does gain back up again though as we grip up, but I'm barely matching my previous time until we go through the chicane.
What a chicane, man!
1.5 tenths gain through that chicane is not bad at all, but then I throw it all away by cutting in tight.
Hitting tyres, probably not great.
No, it's not, but we're still close to that time. This is going to have to be a monster infield section now. 1 tenth down. How is our run going to be through the final corner? There's a yellow flag out. I'm not 100% sure what that's for. I'm looking around, I can't see anything, and we cross the line to set a 103.2 before I bring the speed right back down because there's 2 people in the barrier at the end of the start-finish straight. And the eagle-eyed amongst you might notice that's Joel up ahead. Maybe we are going to get to race each other after all. Joel's been stuck behind these two other back markers, and as we exit turn 3, he goes for an audacious move.
Whoa, Joel!
Almost crashing into his old car. But then he sees this guy on the right-hand side waving the yellow flag and thinks it's still yellow flag conditions, so he backs off. I couldn't quite work out what was going on there, but I decided to just try and hang back anyway. There was no point overtaking Joel if he wasn't clearly racing. And as we head through the final corner, the yellow flag is gone and we can get racing again. And Joel bolts for it. I get my head down and give chase. Finally, we're going to have a bit of racing. This is what I've been waiting for all morning. The two back markers ahead of Joel are slipping and sliding all over the place. He kind of threads his way around the outside of that first guy as we head into turn 2. Spots his braking and... Well, that's gone well. Fortunately, I managed to extricate myself from the barrier and retain the race lead, heading round the track one final time before crossing the start-finish line to claim victory. I'd also set the fastest lap of the session, a 1:03.2, over 6 seconds quicker than I went in qualifying. So, can a GPS device like the Dragy Pro make you faster on track? Honestly, yeah. But only if you know what to do with that data. It can't drive for you, but it can definitely help you think smarter about your lines and about your laps. This isn't a sponsored video, by the way, but Dragy did send me a unit for free to test out. So thank you very much, Dragy. I really appreciate it. And if you're interested, I'll be doing a more in-depth review of the unit a little later on as well, so watch out for that video. In the meantime, here's my fastest lap from practice and my fastest lap from the race, so you can see just what an improvement I made. Big thank you to everyone who joined me out on track, especially Joel. Thanks to the Rednal Karting staff. It's an amazing track. You should 100% go and visit it if you get the chance. Big shout out to Jason, who's been pushing to go to Rednal for ages, but unfortunately wasn't able to join us today. Hopefully we can join you soon, dude. And thank you to you for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and maybe if you want to watch something else, YouTube reckons you'll like this video, so why not click that and give it a watch.